Hello, everyone.
Hello, good morning. I believe we have everyone here. So, good morning again to this meeting of the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. The time is 10:06, and I call this meeting to order. Mr. Saeed, can you please read the notice of the public meeting?
Chairwoman, this is a rescheduling of a regularly scheduled meeting of the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission's 2025 annual meeting schedule. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Senator Byron M. Baer Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of the rescheduled meeting was provided to the Asbury Park Press, Bergen Record, Courier Post, Star Ledger, and the Trenton Times on December 8th, 2025. The agenda and information regarding the virtual nature of the meeting and the ability to live stream was also posted on the CRC website. The meeting time and location has also been posted on the website of the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission and with the Office of the Secretary of the State.
Thank you, Mr. Saeed. Can you please take roll call?
Commissioner Mapp,
Present.
Vice Chair Nash,
Present.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Present.
We now have a quorum. The first order of business is for the Commission to go into executive session to discuss legal matters and litigation and investigation updates. These are discussions that are not shared with the public. We believe the executive session should take about 2 hours.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Mapp.
Second.
Is there a second? Seconded by Vice Chair Nash. Is there any discussion on this motion to go into executive session? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. As Mr. Saeed noted, we expect the executive session to last approximately 2 hours. We will leave the live stream running during that time. And so we can expect to resume the public session at about, let's say, 12:15 p.m. Thank you for your patience, everyone. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for your patience. Our executive session has ended, and so the time is 1:24, and we will resume the public portion of this meeting. Mr. Saeed, can you please announce the next agenda item?
The next item on the agenda is approving the minutes of both the Commission's open and executive sessions held on October 1st and November 17th, 2025. The minutes have been shared with the members of the Commission prior to this meeting.
Thank you. If there are no requested changes, is there a motion? Commissioner Mapp, I see you saying something, but I can't hear you.
So moved.
All right, Commissioner Mapp moves to approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
They're seconded by Vice Chair Nash. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Before we move on, my apologies. I meant to do this at the top. Before we move on, just want to announce a couple of agenda changes for folks watching. So there will be no chair's report for today. Also, if you are looking at the website, agenda number 8B, change in capacity, physical plant or premises, that was struck through, but that is on the agenda for today. And some of our notices of enforcement action are removed. So that means we have, one moment. All right, so the notices of enforcement action that are removed from today's agenda: INV 7/1/2025, INV 7/9/2025, INV 88/2025, INV 102, 2025, and INV 143, 2025. Those matters will be taken up at a future board meeting. So the only notices of enforcement action that will be considered today are INV 89, 2025, INV 111, 2025, INV 122, 2025, INV 124, 2025, INV 128, 2025, and INV 141, 2025. And I believe that is it for the agenda update. My apologies, everyone, for missing that earlier. Mr. Saeed, now you can announce the next agenda item.
The next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. Director Riggs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And of course, we'll start with our updates on dispensary openings. We have more than 270 medical and recreational adult use dispensaries open in all 21 counties. We have a list here of some new dispensaries that have opened since our last public meeting. We see some more openings in the northeastern part of our state and everywhere else. So we're continuing to see more businesses come online. As far as the licensing update goes, these are the total licenses approved as of November 18th of 2025. We have a total of 3,128 applications that were submitted as of that date. A little bit more than 2,400 of those were approved. A little over 300 are with our Office of Licensing. 209 of those applications are pending submission following a cure, and 175 applications are under review in the Office of Compliance and Investigations. These are for our adult use licenses or recreational licenses approved as of December 3rd of 2025. 1,654 conditional licenses have been approved, 462 conditional to annual conversion licenses, 305 direct annual licenses, 84 expanded alternative treatment centers, for a total of 397 total operating licenses under AU and medical permits. That was as of December 3rd. I think we're a little bit over 400 right now, but we're still opening up these places and we have a lot of licenses. Today, up for consideration, we will have 7 conditional to annual conversion licenses, 10 annual licenses, 2 expanded alternative treatment center certifications, 41 annual license renewals, and 86 medical license permit renewals. The current patient enrollment numbers as of December 15th of 2025, the total patients enrolled in the medical program are 51,776. We have 3,388 caregivers and 1,545 doctors enrolled in the medical program. Now on to some of our quarterly seed to sale data report and update. The first slide will show you medical and recreational sales over our last 4 quarters. As you can see, with the year-over-year change for quarter 3 of 2024 to quarter 3 of 2025, there was a 12.3% increase in sales. And I'll get into why that's significant as the sales continue to climb and the price continues to drop for cannabis in a little bit. Next slide, please. Okay. This is a new slide that we put together. This is a combined sales distribution by county. So what this shows you is 2025 year to date, where the percentage of sales are. Camden County is leading the way with 12% of the sales. Burlington, Monmouth are tied for second, and Bergen and Essex are not far behind. This is adult use sales, total sales by each month. What you're seeing here is basically a continued showing of seasonality changes in our summer months and around the holidays, with drop-offs in February and September, as in with previous years. But October 2024 to October 2025, you had almost a 20% increase in sales. So sales are still climbing despite the fact that the price of cannabis is falling. And that's where this slide comes into play, where we have the adult use flower price per gram over the last 13 months. As you can see, it continues to fall. In October of 2024, we were at $10.98 a gram. We are now down to $8.09, a little uptick from last month. But the year-over-year change from October 2024 to 2025, it's a minus 26.3% change. So the price of per gram continues to fall, but the sales continue to go up. So even though the price is lower, our sales are higher. Next slide. This is a manufactured product sold by month under the adult use program slide that we put together. This includes products like vape carts, edibles, concentrates, tinctures, lotions, creams, transdermal patches, all non-flower based products. It shows a growth in consumer participation in the cannabis market, and it adds some context to the sales numbers, which are heavily impacted by the price. So the sales are going up. We're selling more products. You see in October 2025, 1,593,080 products were sold, which is up from October 2024, about 38%. This is our medical sales over the last 13 months. As you'll see in October of 2024, we've had a significant decline in medical sales. I think this can be attributed to the fact that there's more adult use stores that have been open, and patients are going to these adult use stores that are offering significant discounts to patients when they are able to show that they are enrolled in the medical program. We also have seen the decline in patients, so we do see a little bit of a decline in sales, but this can also be attributed, and you'll see on the next slide, to the price of medical cannabis having a huge dip and dropping significantly. So this is our medical flower price per gram. In October 2024, we were $9.83. We're now down to $6.89, which is almost a 30% decrease in price for medical cannabis. So that has fallen significantly. Medical cannabis is cheaper under the medical program than it is in the adult use program. So medical patients are getting the benefit of having the opportunity to buy some cheaper cannabis at a reduced cost under our program. This is our an adult use product mix by category. Hasn't changed too much. Bud and flower dominate the market at 42% of the sales. But what you do see is over half of the products sold require some type of processing or value add. So, there are expansion of products being available. We do see an expansion since we adopted those edible rules and expanded what was available in products. And manufactured products do make up about a little over half of what we have in the market. Pounds harvested per month. So you see here, this is the amount of pounds that have been harvested. In October of 2024, 133,000 pounds of cannabis were harvested. And this is wet weight. This isn't dry weight. This is before it goes through its curing process. And then in October of 2025, we see that we had 203,000 pounds and some change here. So you had a 53% growth in the pounds that have been harvested, which also shows that the market's healthy and continuing to grow. So this slide is THCA testing value averages. There was a little bit of an uptick since last October of 2024 to October of 2025, about a 1.3% year over year, which represents a 4.7% change from October of 2024. It's one of the things we're continuing to keep an eye on. As I announced in August of this year, we do have these investigations pending on some testing laboratories related to inflating THCA or any total THC values, and also yeast and mold failure rates. This slide shows some of the labs, and what this shows is simply what we're looking at when we use the data and follow the data for our investigations. So when we have our data team pull the data and work with our Office of Compliance and Investigation, we look for trends. And some of these trends you see here that we highlighted. One lab is increasing they're increasing their THC values a little bit more than the other labs. But as you see, when we hit August of 2025, it seems as though when we made the announcement that we were looking into these things and having an investigation into these things, that some of the labs level set and the THC values started to drop that were being reported in metric. Total yeast and mold failure rates over the last 3 months. In October of 2024, you saw a 1.38% failure rate. Now we have the highlighted months in August, September, and October. And if you see in the previous months, in July, we had less than 1% failure rate. In June, we had a 1.26% failure rate. And now we're seeing a little bit of an uptick after we made the announcement that we were looking into these things with the labs to make sure that they were reporting accurate results and doing the test appropriately. It starts to inch up a bit after we made that announcement. So I'm happy to see that. Mold doesn't just go away. It is going to be present in cannabis, and we need to have accurate testing for consumer safety, and so that consumers know what they're getting is a safe product. And this just shows, again, some of the data that we're tracking and some of the data that we're looking at during this investigation. You see that 3 months in a row, we had a lab that reported no failure for total yeast and mold. They had no test that failed. So that's a trend that we look at, that we're continuing to look at, and hopefully, getting into our investigation. But you see, again, in August, you're going to see, after August, you saw a little bit of an uptick here in total yeast and mold testing value averages by the lab. And the last slide that I have to report on is showing all the labs and the number of tests performed and their failure rate. And, you can see that there's a significant portion of the market share dominated by a few labs that have the lowest failure rates. Again, following the data, this data shows that, some labs are probably accurately reporting their results and some probably aren't. And we're going to continue along with our investigation to ensure that consumers have safe lab tested product. I just wanted this slide to present to show that there are some good labs, some good actors out there. And the data seems to show that there may be some bad labs out there. So we're going to continue along with our investigation and hopefully have more to report on it in the future. That concludes my executive director's report. I know that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion Director Wesley McWhite has some data that he would like to report out on. So I'll kick it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Director McWhite, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. Wesley McWhite here. How's everybody doing? I'm really excited to be before you, as I always am. That's just my MO. But today we're sharing just a little bit more than our data report. We'll be sharing just a quick update from the New Jersey Business Action Center and their Cannabis Training Academy. Of course, we're going to be going over our data report. We're also going to be talking about a focus group that we held in conjunction with the data team on the cost of compliance and what's going to come out of that. And then the long-awaited, finally unveiled scorecard, social equity scorecard. We do want to go over sort of the parameters and the vision that we have for that. And I'm really, really excited to get started. So let's dive right in. So New Jersey Department of State Cannabis Training Academy, as we said, you can contact them here for any questions or follow-ups or to register. We also have a QR code coming that will stay on that slide just for a bit so that you can follow that link as well. As always, bringing you greetings from the Lieutenant Governor, also the Secretary of State, Tanisha Way, and Executive Director Melanie Willoughby of the Business Action Center. Really appreciate their support from the very beginning on this project that continues to expand and continues to service the cannabis industry. So the Cannabis Training Academy was designated or designed to address capacity gaps identified early by CRC data, where means and access alone was not enough to ensure successful licensure. So our operations. So in August 2025, CTA had approximately 1,600 registered students. By December, registrants have exceeded 2,000, reflecting accelerating demand. This growth shows a shift in the market from applicants seeking, sort of entry-level information to operators seeking sustainability, compliance, and workforce readiness. So we're really excited about that. And there's the QR code. Again, it is 10 levels, 60 courses, asynchronous, 20 instructors, and everything is online and no cost. The CTA core structure remains consistent since August with 10 levels and 60 plus courses, but utilization increased significantly. This reflects CRC feedback that early applicants struggled less with understanding rules and more executing compliant operations. So we want to continue to recognize all the great work that they are doing. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary launch. They have more than 30 recorded webinars and Q&As have been produced. The portal has been and will be translated entirely in Spanish by the end of this month. We're really excited about the long-term impacts that the CTA is having on our industry already. Since August, CTA has transitioned from a strong pilot to a mature, fully implemented program. As we said, Spanish translation launched after August, directly responds to equity feedback raised earlier. As we first launched our CTA program, badge training expansion aligns with CRC's shift from issuing licenses to maintaining compliance and workforce accountability. And again, the CTA is nationally recognized, which reinforces New Jersey's leadership and validates CRC's approach to compare to earlier, less comprehensive assistance models that we've seen across the country. CTA demographics, as you can see here, 42% of students identify as Black, 27% as white, and 19% as Latino. Top counties represented by students are Essex with 18%, Middlesex 8%, Camden, Hudson, and Bergen all at 8%. And so what these demographics show to us is that there's continuing to exceed national cannabis workforce diversity benchmarks with our metrics here. However, geographic participation has expanded since August, mirroring where new dispensaries and cultivation sites are opening. This demonstrates that CTA is not only attracting diverse participants, but is also aligning workforce training with real market growth across counties. And as always, you can contact the executive director directly, Tahid Chappelle, or anyone at the CTA with their emails and contact information here. CTA needs to hear from you. How can they improve? What webinars and lessons and trainings are needed? We're hearing municipal officials are signing up to get themselves educated on what it takes for an application to get submitted successfully to the CRC. And even staff members of particular businesses are signing up as well to understand what owners had to go through in order to launch their business. So we're really, really excited about the CTA's exponential growth, and we're continuing to wish them much success. And you can also contact the Business Action Center, who does always provide free of charge, confidential and quickly accurate and careful information for anyone looking to open up a business in the state of New Jersey. Really excited about this. This is our project that we've done in conjunction with the Office of Data and Analytics. Special shout out to Director Lynn and his team. We also want to thank the 30 or so participants and businesses and business leaders for their input. And so what we did here is we gathered together a very informed focus group from the cannabis industry. As I said, that included business owners and business leaders. We were able to gather qualitative information to inform upcoming comprehensive survey of licensees. Licensees cited, we also partnered with New Jersey Institute of Technology to design and administer the survey and analyze the responses. Licensees cited excessive cost, municipal barriers to entry, redundancies in the application and licensing process, unexpected delays along the way, inconsistent regulatory interpretations, and the significant competitive disadvantage created by unregulated illicit and gray and hemp-derived market that face none of these types of barriers in the regulated space. So we can say that even though these conversations sometimes are uncomfortable, but necessary and continuous to improve at the CRC, and they resulted in positive feedback. You know, I've been to a couple conferences, and already the industry is spreading the word about the cost of compliance listening session and the subsequent survey, industry-wide survey that will go out to the entire industry. So please be on the lookout for that. Please continue to dialogue with your regulators and talk to us about sort of some of the barriers that you continue to face. Now that you are just operating and open. So really, really looking forward to that. And thank you, Lynn, Director of Data and Analytics, for all of his hard work and helping us bring this together. All right. On to the data report. As always, our full data report is available, will be available on our website. All previous data reports are available on our website. Awardee application data. We are continuously tracking applicants, application data by application class and type. We're continuing to track key population data for justice involved folks, minority-owned applicants and awardees. We're breaking that down by county distribution, by awardees, by type class, and persons of interest of data. All of that data we used to present many, many moons ago is still available on our website. So we pulled this slide from the report, and since August, over 50 new annual licenses have been awarded to diversely owned businesses and social equity businesses. An additional 10 social equity businesses awardees and 27 diversely owned businesses, with some being designated as both. While equity participation remains strong, CRC data continues to show that the timing and access to capital and municipal readiness and participating municipalities who are not yet opted in or accepting new cannabis businesses all remain critical factors influencing successful conversion. Onto our data benchmark for December 2025. August data highlighted strong micro-business entry into the market. December data confirms not only entry, but survival and revenue growth, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. This supports CRC's early assumption that scaled down license types could lower barriers to entry, while also reinforcing the need for continued technical and financial support as some micro-businesses look to scale their operations. From August to December, our diversely owned benchmark data, we have seen an increase in both minority-owned and women and disabled veteran-owned awardees, continuing our streak of exceeding our 15% statutory benchmark in both categories since the very beginning of our reporting. New Jersey continues to outperform national benchmarks for diversely owned cannabis businesses. It is consistent with August findings. December data adds an important layer. These businesses are not just licensed, they are generating sales and sustaining operations. Compared to August, the gap between the New Jersey and national averages has widened in a positive direction. Diversely owned benchmarks. This slide includes expansions. CRC data confirms that ownership diversity is being maintained as market matures, and it's not being diversity is not diluted over time. Businesses licensed to operate under the CREAM Act. So this is a little different way of viewing this data. So these are folks that have a final license to operate. About 80 to 90% of these folks are operating. There are some that do have their license, but they're just waiting on their end to work out any kinks or last minute deadlines that they have to do. But as far as we are concerned, all of these folks have a license to operate within the industry, some of which we are waiting for their doors to open. So as you can see here, growth is steady rather than explosive, signaling controlled expansion. This aligns with CRC goals of balancing access, competition, and regulatory oversight. We have seen an increase all across license types, with significant increase of the number of business licensed to operate among cultivators and manufacturers and retailers. There's been a slight increase in wholesalers, distributors, and first two licensed distributors have been licensed since August. We're really excited about that. We do have some more exploring to do to determine why more folks aren't applying for a wholesaler, distributor, or delivery license. We've heard anecdotal stories, but we are looking to dive in more in depth about some of the barriers that might be preventing folks from going after a distributor, delivery, or a laboratory license. Businesses licensed to operate under the CREAM Act according to their DOOR certification through the Department of Treasury. 100 women, we can celebrate that, have officially crossed business ownership in New Jersey, cannabis business ownership in New Jersey, not too far behind on minority-owned businesses. I'm pretty sure we've exceeded both 100 for both categories so far. There has been an increase among all veteran types. So disabled veteran types jumped, I believe, from 5 to 11 between August in December, disabled veteran and minority owned, and then the one disabled veteran, minority, and women owned businesses. Still more work to do there. We continue to dialogue with our veterans, but we have a great relationship with our veteran community. We don't measure veterans. So that is another subset of categories that we want to start taking a look at this year, just in case we're missing some veterans who don't identify as disabled veteran. Business license to operate under the CREAMA Act broken down by race and ethnicity. There has been an increase in business license to operate across all races and ethnicities from August to December, increasing market representations. We're really, really excited about this. These are great numbers. These aren't, it's not the finish line that we're all looking for, but this is a positive momentum that we are seeing in the industry to make sure that we are seeing our industry reflect the diversity of the great state of New Jersey. So on to sales for open business type. Chris went into this. We're going to give more of a breakdown of different types of license classes and types. So as he said, from October 2024 to October 25, adult use cannabis sales increased almost 20%. The growth demonstrates continued consumer demand, even as the market becomes more competitive and prices decline. Compared to earlier market phases, this period could reflect some normalization, possibly signaling a more stable and predictable operating environment for licensed businesses. Please dive into this information and is readily available on our website as always. Micro businesses experienced a 54.4% year-over-year sales growth from October 2024 to October 2025, significantly outpacing overall market growth. While this reflects growth from a smaller base, it demonstrates that micro businesses are not only entering the market, but capturing consumer demand as access expands. Social equity businesses recorded a 42.3% year-over-year sales growth between October 2024 and October 2025. This growth rate exceeds the overall adult use market, indicating that equity design businesses are increasingly competitive, contributing meaningfully to the total market activity and not just towards license counts. And also that our prioritization process has been successful all the way from application inception to market participation. Total sales by month for businesses with owners with criminal history saw a 61, almost 62% year-over-year sales growth from October 2024 to 25. This strong performance reinforces the CRC's early policy assumption that justice impacted ownership represents both an equity imperative and a viable business category and designation. Total sales by month for EDAs, economically disadvantaged areas, were 55, a little over 55% year-over-year sales. This sustained growth suggests that market access is translating into real economic activity in communities historically harmed by cannabis prohibition, supporting the long-term intent of the social equity program, of our social equity program. Diversely owned businesses grew just a little over 47% year-over-year from October 2024 to 25, more than double the overall market growth rate. This indicates that ownership diversity in New Jersey's cannabis market is not diminishing as the industry matures, but instead remains economically durable. Disabled veteran-owned businesses experienced an increase of 14.5% year-over-year between October 24 and 25. While growth remains positive, it trails other categories, signaling an opportunity for more targeted outreach, any technical assistance that might be needed here, any business support strategies. We've built great relationships, as we said earlier, with our veteran and disabled veteran business owners and community, and we'll continue to double down on that to see if there's any support that is needed, or veterans that are outside of our cannabis industry that want to get into the cannabis industry and are experiencing barriers that we just don't know about just yet. Minority-owned businesses saw a 55.6% year-over-year sales growth, nearly 3 times the overall market growth rate. This sustained performance demonstrates that minority ownership in New Jersey's cannabis industry is translating into real, meaningful economic participation. And lastly, and certainly not least, women cannabis businesses recorded 44% year-over-year growth. Despite national trends showing declining women ownership in cannabis, New Jersey continues to demonstrate strong participation, revenue growth among women-owned businesses. So that is the end of the data set. And now we move on to my favorite part, probably, the social equity scorecard. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and I am so excited to be introducing finally to you all the scorecard. I want to first off start by thanking all of the staff, Executive Director, Acting Executive Director Chris Riggs, first and foremost, Madam Chair, and all of the commissioners, past and present, who started to talk about this idea 4 years ago when we first started this agency. And the reason it took us so long to launch this program is because we wanted to make sure that the market was mature enough for us to insert this sort of statewide recognition program so that we can see equitable participation across the market from businesses that are open and operating. So without further ado, the Social Equity Scorecard purpose and overview. The Social and Community Impact Scorecard is a statewide framework developed by the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission to evaluate, highlight, and publicly recognize the social equity, diversity, and community reinvestment efforts of cannabis businesses operating in New Jersey. Just to give you a quick history lesson, when we first launched the industry and expanded ATCs got moved into the market, they were required to present to us social equity plans to make sure that they are adhering to the stated goals of not just the CRC, but for the industry as a whole. Then came along adult use businesses, and as a part of their application process, they had to submit to us community impact reports. And so since then, 40 expanded ATCs, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion are monitoring 40 expanded ATCs with more coming on board, and 213 adult use businesses who have submitted social equity plans or community impact plans and submit quarterly reports to us up until this point. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of businesses, it's a lot of pages of material. And so we always knew at some point we wanted to create this recognition program using the information that businesses and industry has already provided us and amplifying the good work that they're already doing in the state of New Jersey and sometimes even beyond. So social equity in cannabis ensures that individuals and communities disproportionately harmed by prohibition have equitable opportunities to participate and benefit from the legal cannabis industry. So why does the scorecard matter? The scorecard takes equity a step further by ensuring businesses are not only licensed, but are actively giving back through hiring, workforce development, community partnerships, and reinvestments. Public scoring also empowers consumers to support businesses that are making verified, meaningful impact. So we're addressing lasting harms of cannabis prohibition, and ultimately we want to empower consumers through transparency as well. Who is evaluated and how it works. So it will be all expanded ATCs. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion is currently monitors, as we said, 40 expanded ATCs, and has reviewed numerous social equity and community impact reports, creating a strong foundation for this level of oversight. So to ensure an equitable rollout, we will also be scoring adult use businesses that have been operating over 2 years, giving newer businesses an opportunity to perfect plans and to get updated reports into us. And this, we are also opening up to voluntary early participation for newer businesses. I know in particular social equity businesses and diversity-owned businesses are very eager to participate in the scorecard, even if they haven't been open for more than 2 years. So importantly, the scorecard is capacity-based and not comparative-based. Now, the reason it took us so long is that we wanted to make sure that we weren't comparing the capacity of, say, an expanded ATC to a small micro business or small mom and pop shop. While we appreciate, all of the funds that sometimes expanded ATCs have access to do this community work, we also wanted to make sure that we recognize in an equitable way sort of the smaller scaled events that businesses don't have the capacity to see at an expanded ATC level, but are still just as important. So we are really, really excited. I keep saying that, but I think it's a speech tick. But often we want to make sure that these businesses are recognized for their contributions, who are also deeply ingrained into their community and centered in ways that possibly big businesses cannot. Expectations are aligned with operational scale, ensuring fairness while still holding all businesses accountable. So we've decided to approach this into a 5-tier recognition framework, and I'll show you a breakdown of that in the next, a visual breakdown of that in the next slide. So the scorecard uses a 5-tier recognition system. It is represented by 1 to 5 cannabis leaves. Businesses must satisfy all requirements of preceding tiers to advance, ensuring growth is incremental and meaningful. Tier 1 establishes baseline commitments through workforce development and a submitted social equity plan. Tier 2 adds community expungement and expungement support and criminal justice work. Tier 3 focuses on economic inclusion through diverse vendor and business partnerships. Tier 4 emphasizes industry education and technical assistance for equity and justice involved individuals. And Tier 5 recognizes long-term corporate spending and reinvestment commitments, including disclosure of annual dollar amounts. And businesses may submit updated documentation to advanced tiers over time, but don't send us anything yet. We're not ready yet. Businesses are evaluated annually and will receive a formal recognition through a certificate that will live on our website on a dedicated landing page for this program, decals that will go in your store. This decal will come with a QR code. We're feeding 2 birds with 1 stone. We're using the decal for the social equity scorecard program and also as a way to verify that you are a licensed CRC business. You can do that already by going to our website, but like New York and other states, we want to make sure that that decal and QR code is right in the window or in the door for folks to know that this is an actual licensed business licensed by the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. And we will be publicly listed on the New Jersey CRC website. And this is just a visual breakdown for our visual learners. Tier 1, as we said, baseline equity commitment. Tier 2, your community engagement. Tier 3, your expansion and implementation. Tier 4, your partnerships and education support. And Tier 5, your long-term investment and spend. And then lastly, what are the next steps? We'll be rolling this out within quarter 1 of 2026 of next year. We'll be doing some preliminary scoring of participating businesses over the next couple of weeks. We will continue to solicit additional feedback from business owners, leaders, and advocates. Special shout out to all of you who have given us feedback about the scorecard every step of the way. We couldn't have gotten to this point without you. We'll be uploading and launching the New Jersey CRC dedicated landing page, graphics, and guidance documentation and informational resources. And as always, if you have any questions or you're eager to know more about the program, you can always contact the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So with that, I will turn it over to the chair. But first, I do want to give a special shout out to Nana and Glenn, who have been working very, very hard with me on this project. And we have a lot more hard work to do, but we're really, really excited about seeing this flourish in the industry. We don't see the scorecard as being punitive, but we do see the scorecard as a measure for the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission to uplift all of the great work that all of you businesses are doing across our great state. So thank you all for all of your reports. Thank you for submitting your reports. We'll have some more information about some changes in our reporting at the top of the year, but continue to keep up the good work, and we're going to work hard to get this launched by quarter 1 of next year. So with that, I'll turn that back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Director McWhite, and great updates on the scorecard. Thank you to you and your team for turning this idea into a reality. I know it's not been easy, especially if as new issues or questions are uncovered along the way, but I'm happy to see that this is nearing the finish line. Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs or Director McWhite about the director's report, executive director's report? Hearing none, then we will move forward.
The next item for consideration on the agenda are the committee reports.
All right, and I believe we are first starting off, our first committee report will be from the Public Engagement Education Committee, I think. Is that right? What's on the next slide? That's right. Excellent. So I will turn it over to Commissioner Mapp to give us a committee report from that committee. Oh, Commissioner Mapp, your microphone is on mute.
That's better now. Let me get my slides back up. Don't know where it went. 1 second. Okay. The Public Engagement and Education Committee is statutorily required to hold at least 3 hearings per year in order to solicit input from the public regarding the use of the SEEF funds, which is the social equity excise fees. These are specific meetings for you, the public, to have your voices heard. Upon completion of these sessions and based solely on your suggestions, the Public Engagement and Education Committee will then compile a report to be included in the CRC's recommendations to the governor and the legislature. Your participation is essential, and in order to have your voices heard, you can register to speak or submit your written comments via the link which will be provided prior to the session, and that link is now at the bottom of, is now posted for you. This is your meeting, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, your ideas, and your suggestions. Your input is valuable. Hence, this is your opportunity to candidly communicate with the Commission and openly share your thoughts. The current scheduled dates for these listening sessions are Thursday, January 15th, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m., Wednesday, January 21st, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m., Thursday, January 29th, 2 to 3 p.m. Again, I look forward to your robust participation in these sessions. Thank you. I yield back to the chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mapp. Again, very excited to see what I hope to be a robust turnout for these hearings for people to provide input on where they think monies should go. And then the commission will then turn those ideas shared to us during these 3 hearings into a report that is formally submitted to the governor and the New Jersey legislature, who will then carry the mantle to determine how to appropriate social equity excise fee dollars. Next, we have the Permitting and Licensing Committee. So I will turn the floor over to Vice Chair Nash to provide the committee report from that group.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to thank Director Riggs and Director McWhite for providing such robust reports, and I am very excited about the social equity scorecard. So thank you all for those efforts. I am excited on behalf of the Permitting and Licensing Committee to introduce several updates aimed at streamlining the renewal process and improving regulatory oversight. The changes that I'll go through include new documentation requirements and enhanced compliance reviews. Updates in connection with the medical renewals have already been implemented, and the new process for AU renewals will begin in January 2026. Going forward, in addition to the required renewal form, businesses shall submit a new entity disclosure form. However, the updates that are usually required in the EDF as to updating managers, staff members, and employees will not be required upon renewal. The renewal attestation It also reminds businesses of their duty to notify the commission of any changes, and that failure to do so may result in enforcement action. For example, we've seen ownership changes occur without notification or physical plant changes. It's a simple call to your compliance officer. So please, 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 stay in the right and just notify us so we can move things forward for you. At renewal, the Office of Compliance and Investigations will provide a full compliance history of businesses' compliance from the past 2 to 3 years to the board. This report will contain information about serious or repeated complaints received, notice of violations issued, and whether corrective action plans are implemented, and whether the fine or the penalty issued by the commission was paid. Under the CREAM Act and the Jake Honig Act, maintaining an LPA is an ongoing condition of licensure. The commission will require an attestation at renewal that states that the business is complying with the terms of its labor peace agreement. The great state of New Jersey got it right when they implemented the labor provisions in the CREAM Act. And I will ask that those that want to do business in New Jersey follow our laws, and I'll leave it at that. Feedback from microbusinesses has led to the committee developing cooperative purchasing guidance to support affordability and sustainability. With wholesale prices being high, the ability to collaborate with other businesses to buy cannabis products in bulk would help reduce financial strain, particularly for many locally owned businesses. As such, we will be issuing guidance for co-op purchasing agreements in the beginning of the new year. These continued efforts reflect the Commission's commitment to transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement in licensing practices. Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nash. And thank you to both committees, the Permitting and Licensing Committee and the Public Engagement and Education Committee, for their work on these various topics and projects to make sure that accurate information is both collected from the industry and from the public, and then we can provide great, useful feedback to incorporate in our operations and how to make New Jersey's cannabis market a better place for everyone. If there are no questions for either committee, then we will move on to the next agenda item.
The next item up for consideration on the agenda are the public notices and publications.
We'll first start with the schedule of regular meetings of the Commission for calendar year 2026. Next slide. Nope. Back. Okay. So the Commission has put together a list of dates for 2026, which would be for, there we go, which will be the dates for our regular board meetings moving forward. And those dates are listed on the screen you have before you. Those meetings, or those dates that have an asterisk, will be limited to new license applications and annual license renewals, just as we did this year. If there are no questions or proposed edits to the regular meeting schedule, I will ask for a motion to adopt the 2026 regular meeting schedule.
And make the motion that we adopt the schedule as presented.
And I will second that.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion to adopt the 2026 regular meeting schedule? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wenu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Next, we have the adjustment for the social equity excise fee. This is an adjustment that is done each year pursuant to statute. So I will turn the floor over to Director Riggs to provide a brief summary of the data that is used to inform our adjustment of the fee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as you noted, under CRC regulations and under the enabling legislation, the CREAM Act, the Commission may adjust the social equity excise fee annually by publishing a notice in the New Jersey Registrar. The social equity excise fee is based off the statewide average retail price of 1 ounce of usable cannabis. The price here that we will be using based upon the data is $251.06 per ounce. Under CRC rules, when the price is between $350 and $250, the rules require that the fee be set at $30. However, the CREAM Act gives the Commission the discretion to set the social equity excise fee at up to $30 per ounce if the average retail price falls within that range. Since the average price of usable cannabis is $251.06, the Commission may set that social equity fee, excise fee, up to $30, and it is recommended that the Commission take action to set the fee up to $30 at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions. Oh, actually, I do have a question. Director Riggs, do we have what is the total, what is the current average price of cannabis?
$251.06 per ounce.
$251.06. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to amend the underlying motion so that the underlying motion becomes to waive NJAC 1730-3.4C and keep the social equity excise fee at $250 on usable and unusable cannabis, and to rescind the waiver of NJAC 1730-34D specific to the November 1st deadline.
Okay. Vice Chair, there is no underlying motion, so I presume that this is the original motion that you're presenting here.
Yes, that would be the original motion, correct.
All right, great. So your motion is to waive rule NJAC 17:30-3.4C and keep the social equity excise fee at a rate of $2.50 for calendar year 2026. And the last part was to also rescind the Commission's waiver of NJ-CRC 17:30-3.4D. Is that correct?
Right. So I don't want to, we obviously haven't set the deadline at November 1st, so I don't want to, I want
Right.
to.
Okay. All right. And I believe that that waiver was issued pursuant to Resolution 2025-10-01-01. Okay. All right. That is the motion presently before us. Again, that is to waive Rule 3.4C and keep the social equity excise fee at $2.50 for calendar year 2026, and to rescind the Commission's prior waiver of Rule 3.4D. Is there a second on this motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, on the motion to waive Rule 3.4C and keep social equity excise fee at $2.50 for the calendar year 2026, and to rescind the waiver of the Commission's prior waiver of Rule 3.4D. Can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
And our final public notice and publication it concerns certification of testing capacity. And so our Product Safety Packaging and Labeling Committee will be presenting this item. So I will turn the floor over to, I believe it's Commissioner Mapp, who is presenting this item. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In August of 2022, the Board of Commissioners adopted regulations that implemented the Cannabis Regulatory Enforcement Assistance and Marketplace Modernization Act, recodifying and amending the relevant portions of the Act with an effective date of March 6, 2023. These regulations establish a testing laboratory and a testing requirements transition period, during which time the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission would establish requirements, receive and review applications, and issue licenses for cannabis testing laboratories to operate in the state. During this period of time, the relevant portions of NJAC 1730 NJAC 17:30-19.2 through 19.7 would remain ineffective. And those relevant portions are testing every batch and lot, testing laboratory samples, collections, chain and custody, testing laboratory procedures and specifications for testing usable cannabis and cannabis products, retention samples and stability testing, written reports, and testing laboratory record keeping. The first collection of testing laboratories was voted by the board for licensure on May 24, 2022, establishing the first 4 adult use cannabis laboratories testing in the state of New Jersey. Since that time, an additional 4 laboratories have met the requirements pursuant to NJ-SA 24:6I-35 and all that follows, and are now licensed and have begun operations. The testing laboratories are based out of the different areas: Mount Laurel in Burlington County, Hamilton in Mercer County, East Hanover in Morris County, Belmar in Camden County, Riverdale in Morris County, and Irvington in Essex County, providing the opportunity for licensees to utilize testing laboratories in the north, central, and southern portions of the state. The Cannabis Commission Office of Compliance and Investigations has confirmed that the 8 licensed adult use cannabis testing laboratories have not exceeded their capacity to perform the requisite tests in a prompt manner as required by NJAC 17:30-19.8a. Even though the Commission certifies that having sufficient labs currently, it does not preclude us from issuing new licenses in the future. I yield back to the floor. To the chair, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Commissioner Mapp. Are there any questions for the Product Safety Packaging and Labeling Committee regarding the recommendation to certify that we have a sufficient number of to certify sufficient cannabis testing capacity in the state? Hearing none. Is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resolution certifying the number of cannabis businesses are sufficient. I'm sorry, the number of testing labs are sufficient.
Moved by Vice Chair Nash. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda are applications for canopy changes.
So Director Riggs, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if we could go to the next slide, please. We have one request here for a canopy increase by Atlantic Cultivators LLC, physical plan change. They're requesting to modify their canopy in their cultivation tier from tier 1, which can't exceed 10,000 square feet, to tier 6 canopy that's can't exceed 150,000 square feet. They've submitted the required documentation and have satisfied all the regulatory criteria. Therefore, staff is recommending that Atlantic Cultivators be approved to increase their tier canopy for their cultivation grow. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the modification of a cultivation canopy for Atlantic Cultivators.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda are micro to standard conversion applications.
Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are two business conversion applications to go from a micro to a standard business. Both of these businesses have been operational for at least a year as required under the regulations, Neptune's Garden LLC and Plantopia LLC. They submitted their applications through the portal that were reviewed by our Office of Licensing and the Office of Compliance and Investigations. Their business activity from the last 180 days has been reviewed. Their site plans and business plans have been reviewed, and they've submitted a labor peace agreement. Therefore, staff is recommending that these applications be approved by the board today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resolution to consider the applications to convert from micro business to standard cannabis business.
Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Is there any discussion on this motion to approve the resolution approving the business conversions? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda are ownership change applications.
Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 13 ownership changes that are up for consideration before the board today. We'll go pretty slow through the slides here. We do appreciate all the businesses' patience and when the cures and things go back and forth and the responsiveness to staff members, because changing ownership and the regulatory requirements to make sure that any new owner is vetted and that they're approved and they meet the statutory and regulatory standards to be part of the cannabis industry takes time and a lot of effort. So I do appreciate everything that the Office of Compliance and Investigations and our legal team does to get these things ready to go before the board. It's no easy task. But under the law and regulations, the sale and transfer of equity in a business requires board approval. We need to make sure that all regulatory requirements are met and that anybody that needs to be vetted is vetted, and that's done in the Office of Compliance and Investigation by our investigators. Each of the 13 entities that are before you today have satisfied the regulatory requirements for an ownership change. All of the owners and individuals that were required to be vetted were done by the Office of Compliance and Investigations, and these individuals have been deemed qualified to enter into the AU market. Therefore, we are recommending approval of these 13 ownership transfer applications today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the request for transfer of ownership.
I second.
Moved by Vice Chair Nash, seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda is the adult use cannabis business conversion license applications.
Director Riggs, turn the floor over to but this is not the business conversions.
Conversion to annual, we're doing a conversion.
Yes, we're doing
license.
converting the conditional to annual license applications.
And we have 7 of those today, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Conditional to annual conversion applications. We have 7, 2 cultivators, 1 manufacturer, 1 retailer, and 3 delivery. All these licenses have followed the process and the licensing process established by submitting in the portal where priority assignment was confirmed, so that each application is assigned to the appropriate review level that we've established. Priority was then verified to make sure that the documentation that was submitted actually supports the priority that they identified. Our Office of Licensing then conducts a completeness review to confirm that all the required documents are submitted, and all the documents are filled out, and all the required information is on those documents that's necessary to get a license. These applications are then scored, and then there's a qualification review conducted in our Office of Compliance and Investigation, where individuals, financial sources, and any other agreements are reviewed for regulatory compliance. This is where background checks are conducted to ensure that owners and persons of interest are actually qualified on statute and regulations to enter into the adult use marketplace. And then we conduct a quality control process with our licensing team, the Office of Compliance and Investigations, and our legal team to ensure that everything that is required by law it has been submitted and has been reviewed. We are recommending that these 7 applications be approved by the board today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the conditional to annual licenses as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of adult use cannabis business annual license applications.
Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we're flying at 30,000 feet with a bit of tailwind here. So we've got 10 annual licenses, 1 cultivator, 4 manufacturers, 4 retailers, and 1 wholesaler up before the board today for an annual license. They followed the same process that I just articulated for a business conversion to an annual license. And therefore, these 10 applications for an annual license that we will have up on the screen are recommended to the board today for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consideration of the annual licenses for the applications as presented.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda is the ATC expansion applications.
Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have two alternative treatment centers that are medical permittees that are looking to expand into the adult use marketplace. Toke Lane Cannabis Dispensary, Class 5 retailer here in Trenton. Noble Valley Harvest Company, a Class 1 cultivator in Ewing. We have requested and received zoning and municipal approvals. We've ensured that the labor requirements are met with having an LPA. And as required by law, both of these businesses have certified that they have sufficient quantities of medical cannabis and medical cannabis products available to meet the reasonably anticipated needs of registered qualifying patients. Therefore, it is recommended that both of these entities are approved to expand into the adult use marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the certification for both ATCs to expand operations to the adult personal use cannabis market.
I second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda are the adult use cannabis business annual license renewal applications.
Okay. Director Riggs, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 41 annual renewals that are before the board today. They follow the same licensing process that we articulated earlier for the new applications. These licenses are effective 1 year from the date of issuance and are required to be reviewed annually. All of these entities have required the proper documentation for renewal, including the certification that we've updated and have required to be submitted. This documentation was reviewed and approved by the Office of Compliance and Investigations. Therefore, it is recommended that these 41 licenses be renewed for an additional year of licensure in the adult use marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Director Riggs? Hearing none, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the annual licenses, the annual license renewals as they were presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda are the medical permit renewal applications.
Director Riggs, turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Medical permit renewals are a little bit different. We have 84 permit renewals up for consideration before the board today. 18 cultivators, 12 manufacturers, and 54 retailers. The medical permits are valid on the calendar year, so January 1st to December 31st each year. That's why we have renewals every December. We've been coming back and doing the same thing for the last 4 years with the chair and other commissioners. All the renewal documentation, including the required certification, has been submitted and reviewed by the Office of Compliance and Investigation. Staff is recommending that these medical permit renewals, these 84 permit renewals, be approved by the board today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes. Are we considering any other medical renewals separately?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This is for the group of 39 companies, representing 84 total locations.
Thank you.
There are no additional questions. Is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the renewal applications for medicinal cannabis permits for these alternative treatment centers presented today.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration is the last group of medical permit renewals.
Thank you. Director Riggs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Curaleaf medical permit renewals, they have 6, 2 cultivation permits, 1 manufacturer permit, 3 dispensary permits. Given that there's litigation surrounding some of the requirements to maintain a medical permit, it is recommended by staff that Curaleaf be granted an administrative extension on these permits until such time that the board deems it's appropriate to take action on these licenses. So that's the recommendation from staff. So I will turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Riggs. Are there any questions from the board? All right, I will go ahead and make the motion here. I move to administratively extend the permits for Curaleaf, and their 6 permits. There's 6 medical permits until March 31st, at which time the commission can then reassess whether additional extension is needed or render a decision on the medical permit renewals. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion on the motion to administratively extend the medical permits for Curaleaf until March 31st. Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
In my opinion, the CREAM Act was built on the principle of people over profits. Labor peace agreements provide a fair environment for workers to exercise the right to organize without fear or intimidation or retaliation. In 2025, these protections have already resulted in landmark contracts for New Jersey cannabis workers, delivering industry-leading wages and employer-paid health benefits. Curaleaf's challenge of this mandate is a direct attempt to erode these gains and return to a model that favors corporate interests over the well-being of New Jersey's workforce, New Jersey's residents. It is extremely frustrating to me to consider an administrative approval to allow them to continue to operate until the matter is adjudicated, when this company is in clear violation of New Jersey's law. However, at the advice of counsel and staff, and only because of that, my vote is a very reluctant yes.
the motion passes.
I think you've got one more roll call.
Oh, so
One
Excuse
more
me.
person.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Thank you, Mr. Said. I thank Vice Chair Nash for her comments. I agree that the commission does emphasize the adherence to the law. And I look forward to March 31st, 2026, at which time we can make a final determination on the substance of these renewal applications for the medical permits. With that, my answer is yes. My vote is yes.
So now the motion passes. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
The next item up for consideration on the agenda are determinations of rehabilitation.
All right, I believe, is it Chief Counsel Toizon who will be providing
Chief-
summary remarks on these?
Chief Twason, the co-pilot, is taking the lead here.
Sounds good. Chief Counsel, floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So today we have 5 applications for rehabilitation. Each of these individuals received notice that a criminal history check revealed a disqualifying conviction. Each of these individuals were given the opportunity to challenge the accuracy of the criminal history results or apply for rehabilitation. All 5 have applied for rehab and have met the criteria under the regs and the statute, and we recommend all 5 to be approved today. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. And do we have the identifying case numbers available for public to see? I guess not. So what we will do then is for any requests for determination of rehabilitation that is approved today, those individuals will be notified via directly from the commission by email. With that said, are there any questions from the board for Chief Counsel Toizon about the request for determination of rehabilitation? Hearing no questions on the board, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the request for determination presented today. The requests.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion is, my apologies. Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item up for consideration on the agenda are requests for rule waivers.
We have 4 rule waiver requests for us to consider today. So I'll turn the floor over to Chief Counsel Toizon to provide a summary of those requests received.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So these 4 entities requested waivers of some of our regulations. The commission has the authority to waive regulations pursuant to NJ-CRC 17:30-3.7A in the AU side and NJ-CRC 17:30A-7.11 on the medical side. And they have to meet the 3 factors under those regulations in order for the commission to waive a regulation. The 3 factors are that the waiver is necessary to achieve the purposes of the Act. 2, is necessary to provide access to cannabis items to consumers or patients. And 3, does not create a danger to the public health, safety, or welfare. So next slide, please. The first waiver that the board will be considering today is WR036. The entity name is the Other Side Dispensary, and they are requesting a waiver of a statutory requirement, NJ-SA 24:6I-44J13, to reduce the required amount of liability insurance for cannabis delivery vehicles. And the statute requires a $1 million liability insurance requirement. And just to note that the commission cannot waive statutory requirements in the CREM Act. We can only waive our regulatory or regulations. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter? I will move to deny this waiver request. I believe that, as Chief Counsel Toison noted, we do not have the authority to waive a statutory provision. Only the legislature can amend statute. And I will also note that the insurance requirement that is written into the law, the commission does allow for that insurance requirement to be met with a supplemental umbrella coverage. So for any business that believes that is having difficulty meeting that $1 million threshold for insurance liability coverage, they can meet that threshold by supplementing any existing policy with umbrella coverage to meet that $1 million minimum requirement under the law. So the commission does allow for that, but here, unfortunately, we would not have the authority to waive the statutory requirement. So I move to deny this waiver request. Is there a second?
Based on the fact, Madam Chair, that we cannot waive a statute, I'm going to second that.
Any discussion on this motion to deny the waiver request? I do want to note that the denial really is just based on the language of the request. The mode of transportation, the vehicle that is being that the dispensary seeks to use can be an appropriate approved vehicle, but we just have to, it has to meet other requirements. So for the Other Side Dispensary LLC, I encourage them to work with their assigned compliance officer to make sure that they can get the appropriate insurance coverage for that vehicle and get the approvals necessary so that they can use the vehicle. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Waynu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The next waiver request is WR 040 from Design 710 LLC. They are requesting a waiver of NJ-CRC 17:30-7.10A1, requiring ATCs to pay a $20,000 annual permit renewal fee. With that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Are there any questions from the board regarding this waiver request?
Yes, I have a question. And I
Vice Chair.
think this has come up before. So if we cannot waive a regulation and then supplement, in this case, another fee in lieu of this 20,000, is that accurate?
We did not advise that the board waive a regulation and then impose a new requirement such as a new fee without going through the formal rulemaking process.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, based on the information that Chief Counsel Toison provided, I'm going to deny this waiver request.
Vice Chair Nash moves to deny the waiver request. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The next waiver request is WR 041. It is from Restore NJ LLC. It has the same request to waive 17:30A -7.10A1, requiring ATCs pay that $20,000 annual permit renewal fee. And the same recommendation applies here. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter? I move to deny the waiver request. Is there a second?
I
Yes.
second based on the same information we just had.
Seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Is there any discussion on this motion to deny the waiver request? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
And the final waiver request today is WR 042 from Hamilton Farms LLC. They are requesting a waiver of several provisions, some of which are statutory provisions, NJ-SA 24:6I 46B1, NJ-SA 24:6I-36A, and NJ-AC 17:30-6.8E. Effectively, they're requesting so that they can co-locate its new manufacturing operations within its cultivation facility, using shared entrances and security and parking spaces. These cited regulations have been interpreted by staff to mean that even though that a business, these licenses are owned by the same business, they are separate licenses and require separation of entrances. And any employees that would go into these entities would need 2 separate cannabis ID cards in order to ensure that they are separate. So with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to deny this waiver request from Hamilton Farms based on the comments provided by Chief Counsel Toisan today.
Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mapp. Is there any discussion on this motion to deny the waiver request? I'll just note that co-location, as a general matter, co-location for our businesses is permissible, but our Office of Compliance and Investigations can advise or can instruct and guide businesses on how co-location needs to be structured in order to be permissible. And I believe that here the business is not agreeable to the guidance and the instruction from the Office of Compliance and Investigations for a permissible co-location. So that would be why I am supportive of denying the waiver request. The way that co-location can be allowed is reasonable. We have other businesses that do it without any problems. And so I'm supportive of denying the waiver request as it was submitted by Hamilton Farms LLC. Is there any further discussion on this motion to deny the waiver request? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wenu.
Yes.
The motion passes. The next item on the agenda up for consideration are notices of enforcement actions.
And we'll first start with INV 89-2025. Chief Counsel Toizon, floor is yours to provide summary remarks on this notice of violation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A notice of violation was issued to Hashery LLC for failure to adhere to the law and regulations by verifying the ages of attendees during this event. They also were cited for having an unapproved RV that displayed the business's name on that RV. With that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, for apologies. Based on these violations, we also staff recommends an enforcement action. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Are there any questions from the board?
I do have a question. So there was no age, it says no visible age verification taking place. Was that verified? Just wanted to double check on that.
We didn't observe, our compliance team did not observe that taking place. So
Okay.
that was,
Any additional questions? Hearing no further questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to impose a $1,000 fine based on the violations presented today.
Is there a seconded by Commissioner Mapp? Thank you. Any discussion on this motion? I want to note that based on the evidence provided, the tent that was set up in the parking lot, just wide open for anyone to walk into, and I want to note, though, that the business does claim that they'd spoken with their attorney prior to well, it's not clear whether it happened prior to or after this event was held, but if businesses have any question about whether or not the event that they want to host or the activity that they want to conduct is permissible, contact your compliance officer. Compliance officer will let you know and will guide you appropriately so that you don't end up with a violation such as this. So I'm a little perplexed as to why the business thought it would be okay to have just a wide open tent set up in a parking lot for consumption. So I'm supportive of the motion, and I really hope that businesses take note. This is not the first on-site consumption violation that we've been presented with, nor is it the first time age verification has been lacking. So businesses really should be taking note and making sure that they are in compliance. Any additional discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wenu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
the next enforcement action is INV-111-2025. a notice of violation was issued to Butt It Up LLC for failure to adhere to the regulations and provide, they did have an advertisement. They did not provide reliable evidence that at least 71.6% of the audience was 21 or older. And based on facts and circumstances, staff does recommend that an enforcement action be taken. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. I believe this also involved, the NOV here also involved violation of the provisions, the restrictions against operating as a
Retail
food establishment. Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions for Chief Counsel? All right, hearing none, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to impose a penalty of 500 for NJAC 1730-172A and 1,000 for NJAC 1739.5B, totaling $1,500.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? So I want to note that the evidence here clearly shows that the advertisements were at best concealing the fact that a different business would be conducting the food sales. Rather, the ads strongly suggest that the business was paying for and selling the food that was involved in this instance. So I'm supportive of this motion. Again, for businesses, make sure that you're using advertising methods that are sure to meet those statutory requirements for advertising, and make sure that you're not operating as a food and retail establishment, which includes not just selling, but also can include giving away food as well. So if you have questions about what that means, if you have questions about how food can be used or integrated into your operations, contact your compliance officer for guidance. They will help you out. In short, anybody that doesn't have a consumption area really should be having food on the premises, but you cannot sell or give away food as a licensed cannabis business. So I'm supportive of the motion. Any additional discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Next enforcement action for consideration today is INV-122-2025. The entity name is Zenleaf Mount Holly, and a notice of violation was issued for failure to adhere to the regulations by permitting consumers to enter the dispensary without the age verification process. Based on the facts and circumstances, staff does recommend that an enforcement action be taken. And with that, we turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Are there any questions from the board or Chief Counsel? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, since we got some more information yesterday, I would like to impose a penalty for 1730-4.3A of $1,000 and NJAC 1730-14.3C $1,000. And so that would be 2,000.
Is there a second on this motion?
I second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? I want to note that there's no excuse for this violation. Video evidence clearly shows that there was somebody available at the front door who could have just as easily checked IDs for age verification. But the business decided not to. So I'm supportive of the motion here today. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The next enforcement action that will be considered today is INV 124-2025, High Rollers Dispensary LLC. We issued a notice of violation to this for their consumption area for failure to adhere to the regulations by selling beverages, including mocktails and coffee and beverages dispensed from a soda gun to consumers at its consumption lounge. The other violation was operation of a retail food establishment as well. With that, and based on the facts and circumstances, we do recommend that an enforcement action be taken. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, for a board vote.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I think everyone knows in this industry that businesses and especially consumption lounges are not permitted to serve food or beverages, and that is the law. It's not optimal, but everybody came into this with their eyes wide open. We've had numerous public comments about this, and until the law is changed, we have to uphold the rules and regs. This business appeared to have a soda fountain in it, and they were serving beverages. So I'm going to make a motion to impose a penalty for 1730-1112A1 for $2,500 and NJAC 1730-6.5A1 would be 0. NJAC 1730-11.3E would be 1,000.
So that is a total of 4,000, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no. Commissioner
No,
Knight?
I do agree with Commissioner Nash that these businesses come out and they know what is expected of them, but yet they try to break the rules and circumvent the process.
Thank you, Commissioner Mapp. And I realized that I forgot. So we have a motion on the floor that has been presented by Vice Chair Nash for a total of $4,000 fine. Is there a second on this motion?
Yes, I second. I
Seconded
meant to
by
say that
Commissioner
at the
Mapp.
end.
It's all right. Is there any discussion, additional discussion on this motion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Next enforcement action is INV 128 2025. Notice of violation was issued to Cannaboy Treehouse LLC for failure to adhere to the law and regulations by permitting cannabis items to be available for sampling at no charge. And based on the facts and circumstances, staff does recommend that enforcement action be taken. And with that, I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, for a board vote.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, I move to issue a monetary penalty of $500. And this is based on precedent.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I will second, but I think that the businesses need to understand that our rules and regs says no sampling. So I will second based on that.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Mapp. Is there any discussion on this motion to impose the monetary penalty of $500? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Saeed, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
And the last enforcement action for consideration today is INV 141 2025. Notice of violation was issued to the Social Leaf for failure to adhere to the regulations, and they had an advertisement on the boardwalk, and they failed to provide reliable evidence that at least 71.6% of the audience was 21 or older. Based on the facts and circumstances, we do recommend that an enforcement action be taken. And with that, we turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, for a vote.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing no questions, is there a motion on this matter?
Madam Chair, Social Leaf has explained that they did not put the sign, they did not move the sign, but that is hard for us to decipher. And the fact that they cannot prove to us what percentage of the population was above the legal age and who would have seen that sign, I think that we should impose a fine for $500.
And I'll second that. I did see a photograph that was provided to the board of the sign, and it wasn't something that was temporarily put up on a chain link fence. I mean, I think it would actually require some tools to put that sign up. So, you know, whether it was an accident or a mistake or deliberate, we'll never know, but it was certainly put up to withstand maybe a Hurricane Sandy. So I second that.
All right, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? I think it is very clear that this sign, this advertisement was intended to be on the chain link fence where it was found. Which was right next to a pretzel shop on the boardwalk. Basically, and the fence on which the advertisement was secured was actually the fence around a basketball court. So I think the facts here are very clear. I don't buy the response from the business here that somebody else took what looks like it could be like a 6 or 7, maybe 8-foot sign and just randomly walked off with it and decided on their own volition to put it up on this chain link fence. And so our businesses really need to do better, be smarter about this. Like, you can advertise, we allow advertisement, but you have to adhere to the statutory rules. This is written in the law. This is not something that's created by the CRC. This is written into the CREAM Act. Any advertisement has to be has to come with some assurances that the audience is going to be of legal age. Sticking this up next to a basketball court, between a basketball court and a pretzel shop on the boardwalk, on a beach boardwalk, doesn't cut it. Any additional discussion on this motion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Said, can you please call the vote?
Commissioner Mapp,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Chairwoman Wainu.
I'm going to vote yes. I think the penalty should actually be a little higher given the proximity to the surroundings, like the setting that the advertisement was in. But I'm going to support this this motion and vote yes.
The motion passes. The next item we have on the agenda is the open public comment period.
All right, so as we open the floor for public comment, just want to remind folks that you can submit written comments to the commission by going to our website, nj.gov/cannabis/meetings. The deadline for submitting written comments for today's meeting is 5:00 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, December 18th. Written comments will be shared with the commission members and they will be made public. I believe we've got one person, we've got somebody joining us by phone. So Mr. Said will call on the folks who had registered to speak. When you hear your name called, use the raise your hand function in the Zoom platform so that our staff can identify you and unmute you for you to then share your comments. If you're dialing by phone, you will, when you hear your name called, press *9 to raise your hand, and then you will press *6 to unmute yourself. All right, so for those folks joining us by phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself once you've been given the green light from our staff. As always, our speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. When you see your time is up, please wrap up your comments and so that everyone can have an opportunity to be heard. With that, Mr. Said, can you please call on our first speakers?
Thank you, Chairwoman. As a reminder, public speakers during this afternoon's public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes. Please be respectful and concise during your comments. I will also give a 30-second warning just to give you a heads up of your time. The first person I have on the list is Matha Figaro. Last 4 of the telephone number is 9238. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Matha Figaro. 9238 is the last 4. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Thomas Norcia. Last 4 of the telephone number is 2406. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Thomas Norcia. 2406 is the telephone number. I don't see that person. The next person is Jesse Villers. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. All right, I see you, Jessica. Jessica,
Hi.
the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Jessie Marie Villers, owner and CEO of Baked by the River Dispensary in Lambertville, New Jersey. I'm going to keep my comment to one topic today. I would like to request that the CRC re-implement the provisional badging process for employee badges. I don't know what the reasoning was for getting rid of this process, but it's caused considerable hardship to my micro business. Micro businesses are restricted by the CRC on how many employees we're allowed to employ, so our teams are by mandate smaller. Not being able to replace employees when they need to leave suddenly disproportionately hurts a small team, who then need to all work extra to cover. I'm not in support of the level of fingerprinting and background checks required for cannabis employee badges in general. It prevents good, hardworking folks, some of whom are cannabis experts, from being able to work in the industry. I understand that requirement is not going to change, but you could make changes to bring back the provisional badging process. It should be up to the employer if they are willing to take the presumed quote unquote risk of letting an employee start before getting their clearances back. My small business hired new staff early in October, and we were able to schedule their fingerprinting for mid-October. We didn't get their clearance back until the first week of December, nearly 7 weeks later. That was extra hands we desperately could have used for Halloween, Green Wednesday, and the busy season in general. With delays that can last close to 2 months, we're putting new hires in the difficult and sometimes impossible situation of giving notice at a prior job, but then needing to wait possibly a month or more without pay before starting a new position. This, even if unintentional, creates inequitable access to employment in the cannabis industry by, in addition to requiring a background check, setting up a system that only works for new hires who are able to financially wait an unspecified amount of weeks before starting their new job. Not everyone can afford that wait. And it's not just my business that's had to deal with this problem. I've had delayed deliveries and even entirely missed orders because of operators who I work with who were short-staffed and unable to hire new employees in a reasonable time frame. There is a general delay in fingerprinting and background check process on the state level. And considering that's the situation, I ask that the CRC do what you can for the cannabis licensees. Please bring back the provisional badging process, even if you may need to make adjustments to it. There needs to be the option just to keep an employee clearance workable for businesses and employees in order to maintain a well-functioning cannabis industry. Thank you
30
so
seconds.
much for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jessica. The next person on the list is John Giovannitti. Last four of the telephone number is 4624. John Giovannitti. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Kelly Gatto. Last four is 4129. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. Kelly Gatto. 4129 is the last four of the telephone number. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Andrea Rabel. Last four of the telephone number is 0229. Andrea Rabel. Last four is 0229. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Madik Tusak. Last four of the telephone number is 9504. Madik Tusak. Last four, 9504. If you're in the room, please raise your hand. I don't see that person. The next person on the list is Ramon Azuidet. Excuse me, please. Ramon Azcuidiaz. Last four is 9427. All right, I see you, Ramon. Ramon, you have the floor. If you're trying to speak, to unmute yourself is *6.
Hello? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. I just wanted to start by saying I was in favor of what Jessica from Baked by the River had said. She made some very good points. I just wanted to point that out. Secondly, I just wanted to thank the committee for their time, and I'd also like to request that, if it was just possible, to get some more information regarding the breakdown in the increase in sales. I guess just breakdown on the numbers in general based on the actual licenses. I know that they were requesting to increase the CEF tax. I believe it was up to $30. I think that's like a 1,100% increase, which, as we know, could raise prices for the consumers, possibly creating a death spiral situation where taxes continue to go up. I'm sorry if I maybe am a little uneducated about how that process works, but I was just looking to see if we can get more information as to how, where the actual sale increase is coming from, as well as the price decrease, the actual average price that we get. Is that a price decrease coming from distributors? Is that from retailers, consumers, wholesalers? Like, we can get more information just based off that and do some research there. Maybe the public would be able to better help out in giving an opinion on what we think about these CEF taxes, being as we're hoping that the taxes get spent in the most efficient way to benefit those who are maybe negatively impacted by previous marijuana laws, as well as maybe just overall better helping the community who is mostly affected in these areas. I'd also like to just make the suggestion that if we can distribute some of that money, I'm sure there's been prior conversations. This is my first time actually in one of these meetings, so again, thank you. But yeah, if we could spend some of that more money towards affordable housing, I feel like that would definitely be like overall just great use of the money to help everyone who's been affected just by helping to lower housing prices. I do understand that that may come with certain difficulties or pushback as
30
far
seconds.
as if that's actually helpful, but if that money could be, given to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and we see that it's not just benefiting developers, but actually benefiting the communities affected, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramon. The next person on the list is Elliot McClendon. Last four is 0984. Elliot McClendon, 0984. All right, I see you, Elliot. You have the floor, Elliot.
Good afternoon, Council. I wanted to say thank you for this. I just have a quick question. We were awarded our annual license today, and we want to know what are the next steps. We haven't received any emails or notifications yet.
Mr. McClendon, the commission will provide for any business that had their license application approved today during today's board meeting. The commission will follow up via email with a written correspondence notifying the business of the next steps and what it means going forward. From there, businesses are typically contacted by the Office of Compliance and Investigations, letting you know who your assigned compliance officer will be for the next steps. That'll be the person who is going to be your main point of contact to know how you actually get from today to getting the license issued to you so you can be up and get operational. So next steps for any business that has gotten their application approved today will be getting written correspondence from the commission documenting the approval and explaining what your next steps are.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
The next person on the list is Michael Palmieri. Last four of the telephone number is 5077. Michael Palmieri. 5077. All right, I see you, Michael. Michael, you have the floor. To unmute yourself, it's *6.
Okay, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Perfect. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Michael Palmieri. I'm a cannabis compliance and regulatory counsel who works closely with social equity and early stage operators as they move through build outs, first operations, and renewals. I'm not opposing the social equity excise fee. I support its statutory purpose. My comment is focused on implementation timing and structure. In practice, the first renewal cycle is the point of peak financial and compliance pressure for social equity operators. At that stage, operators are simultaneously managing renewal disclosures, retrospective compliance review, outstanding remediation, and ongoing operating costs. If a flat or accelerated CEF adjustment is applied at that moment without phase-in or renewal stage relief, it can unintentionally create liquidity stress that does not improve compliance outcomes. Instead, it risks delayed remediation, short-term workarounds, or market exit by otherwise compliant operators. My suggestion is not to change the policy goal, but to consider whether implementation timing or staging could better align with renewal realities and support long-term compliance and market stability. Thank you for the opportunity to share these observations, and that's it.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to go over the list of those that haven't spoken, that registered to speak and haven't had a chance to speak. Matha Figaro, last four of the telephone number is 9238. If you're in the room, Matha Figaro, last four is 9238. Thomas Norcia, last four of the telephone number is 2406. Thomas Norcia, 2406. John Giovannitti, last four of the telephone number is 4624. John Giovannitti. Kelly Gatto, last four of the telephone number is 4129. Kelly Gatto, 4129. Andrea Rabel, last four of the telephone number is 0229. All right, I see you, Andrea. Andrea, you have the floor. And to unmute yourself, it's *6 when you're calling in.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. My name is Andrea Rabel. I'll keep my comments brief today. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing more information about the lab investigation. I know a lot goes on behind the scenes, but it really means a lot that you're taking the time to update the public. As we've seen from the data that Director Riggs shared, even having these conversations publicly can have a positive impact on safety. I would love to see more data roll out and look forward to hopefully seeing more metric data and things like that released in the coming year. I'm hopeful that as we continue to look into the data, we'll see ways where we can improve the program and improve safety rather than just be left with a lot of question marks. I also appreciate that you took the time for the certification of sufficient testing capacity. Our state does have a number of licensed labs and they are able to handle the workload. Hopefully seeing the market develop in this way as we go into 2026, we can look to revisit the testing batch size. If we have sufficient testing capacity, let's try to use it in the most effective ways. A 100-pound batch size is not necessarily representative, and that could be part of the reason we're seeing such confusing data when it comes to total yeast and mold counts or potency inflation. If we're able to address the batch size and bring it closer towards the national average, we might also see an improvement in our data. I, again, just can't say thank you enough for actually taking this issue seriously and looking into it and continuing. I know it's been a tough year without a full commission, but I believe you guys have covered a lot of work, a lot of ground, and laid a lot of groundwork for the coming year. I hope to see more patient and consumer involvement I know you're working towards some town halls and roundtables and things like that. I would love to see a focus in 2026 on the medical program again. Safety affects the entire industry, but our medical program is dwindling. We're down to, what, 51,000 patients now? Our market is maturing, and it's time our medical program does too. Thank you for all you're doing to work on safety and to move the needle forward. I look forward to what you can accomplish in 2026. Have a great day. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Andrea. The next person is Madik Tusak. Madik Tusak, last four of the telephone number is 9504. I don't see that person. Chairwoman Wainu, this will conclude the registered speakers we have for today's public meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Saeed, and thank you to everyone who joined us to share their experiences and their ideas for the commission. This concludes the business before us today, and with that, I move that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Nash. Any discussion on this motion to adjourn? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. So the time is 3:42 and we are adjourned for today. Thank you again, everyone. Happy holidays and happy new year. And we will see you in 2026. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.